The head of the European Commission has said she's looking forward to working with the incoming Biden administration in the U.S. But despite the warm words, the EU is going ahead with $4 billion of import tariffs on American goods.
I believe that divisions can always be bridged, wounds can be healed, but some shifts in priorities and perceptions run much deeper than one politician or one administration. And they will not disappear because of one election.
We can now bring in RT's Charlotte Dubinsky in Paris. Charlotte, could you talk us through the EU stance on Biden and the ongoing transatlantic disputes?
Yes, well, Ursula von der Leyen has essentially been outlining what she sees as the EU's priorities, its interests, to keep this transatlantic relationship between the EU and the US strong and make it stronger. But if you listen to her speech, it really does seem that just before Joe Biden comes into office, she is looking to take the bull by the horns, and it doesn't take too much to read what she says as being a list of demands. She talks about the digital economy, making that fairer. She talks about tax in general. She talks about strengthening organizations such as the UN, the World Health Organization, and the World Trade Organization, all things that Biden will now have to look at when he becomes the next US president. Now, this is all in the context of the fact that the EU earlier this week decided to slap $4 billion worth of retaliatory taxes on US products coming into the EU. Now, this is in relation to a long-running dispute that's been going on in regards to subsidies given to Airbus and Boeing. And Trump himself, during his term as president, has been furious about these subsidies to help companies such as Airbus, and as such taxed a whole host of European products, mainly foods and wines, adding huge burdens to EU producers and exporters to try and get their products into the US. Now, it had been thought that the EU was going to hold back on these retaliatory taxes, wait for that election to play out, and then if it was a Biden administration, sort of reopen negotiations, a soft approach. But essentially it hasn't done that. Just in a few hours after Biden was announced to be the next president, it essentially stuck up two fingers to him and said, here are the taxes on US goods, meaning it's essentially a challenge to him when he comes into office, a headache that he now has to deal with without there being this renegotiation. And even US exporters are sounding the alarm.
Additional tariffs will be a major blow to the US spirits industry, especially craft distillers, who are struggling to regain their footing following the closings of distillery tasting rooms, restaurants and bars due to COVID-19.
Well, it's not gone down massively well in Europe either. The Federation of Wine Exporters described these retaliatory taxes as being dangerous and incomprehensible and said that that raised the risk for them too.
The situation is now extremely worrying. It is more than ever necessary to get out of this interminable conflict, because that is the only way to end these taxes.
And there is a dispute at a European level as well. Germany is being more conciliatory towards the US. France seems to be taking a harder line, all while von der Leyen is trying to portray the EU as having sort of a joined-up thinking, a stance on this. But by attacking first, there is this question as to whether the countries in Europe are really formed in one line behind that, or whether this could backfire, not necessarily in the long term, but in the short term too.
RT Charlotte Dubinsky, thank you for bringing us that report.